Thank you.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining. And thanks to CMA. Yes, I am a longtime friend of CMA, and that's a proud honor to wear. I'd like to get started. We've got a lot of information. If I'm speaking too fast, stop me. There hopefully will be time for questions at the end. I do tend to go off on a bit of a tangent, so try to keep me focused. Um, I want to start by just talking a little bit about the difference between a booking agent and a manager, because oftentimes people use that synonymously. And while they are both invested in an artist's career, they do very different functions. So a booking agent is primarily responsible for getting the artist gigs. That's it. Sometimes they contract those gigs, sometimes they don't, but they definitely pitch and try to represent the artists and their projects in getting them work, paid work, usually. That's sort of the goal. And those opportunities can be anywhere within paid venues to different alternative venues, which we'll talk about, sometimes with educational workshops as well. That's what a booking agent does. That's the limit of what they do. A manager has a more holistic approach to developing your career. So they work with a booking agent, but they're also work with you, the artist, to help understand what your goals are, what your skills are, and plan a strategy or strategies to help you attain those goals that you have set. And so they have a much more well-rounded approach to helping you with your career, to help you develop that career from the point where they start the relationship with you and until they sometimes go beyond the relationship. So that's the difference. So we'll start with a clear definition there. So let's talk a little bit about when is it time to have a booking agent? Because mainly everyone wants one, but everyone can't have one. Why? Three questions. Can you, the artist, put butts in the seat consistently? Not once, not twice, but consistently over a period of time. Can you put butts in the seat? Can you generate enough income to sustain an agent's investment in time and resources in your career? Can you generate enough income for them to want to work with you? And three, most importantly, can you afford the 10 to 15% commission that you're going to have to pay for an agent for any work that that agent gets you? Three questions. Is it time? Can you put butts in the seat? Can you generate enough income? Can you afford the 10 to 15% commission it's going to cost you? Payable upfront, by the way. So we're assuming that we're not yet in that position. So this is why we're doing this workshop. How to be your own booking agent. So let's start with this idea of actually now is when I think I'm going to share my screen. I have a little bit of a PowerPoint, mainly to remind me, but also for you guys to see it if I'm talking too fast. So give me 1 second while I attempt to be a professional. So art versus commerce. This is something you guys always talk about. My art is so precious. I don't want to sell it. Well, then go perform for your friends and family. If you want to be a professional musician, and professional means not just a skill level, but that professional part means that you're getting paid for what you do. So if you want to be a professional musician, which I'm going to assume you guys all are here for that reason, then you're going to participate in commerce. Commerce is a good thing. For one, it pays your bills. You get to be able to create more art if you don't worry about your rent or your mortgage. So let's look at it as a good thing and understand that your role as an agent now is to see yourself as both the artist and the salesperson. Now, in some ways, you're a salesperson no matter what, whether you have an agent or not. You're still a salesperson because you are trying to get other people to buy into your vision of what you do and who you are and what you want to share. So it's your job to create that connection and to get the other person to invest in you, whether it's an audience member, whether it's a fellow musician that you need to help realize your vision, or whether it's a presenter or a booking agent that you were trying to get them to invest in your work, and we call that buying your product. Susan and I were talking earlier this morning, and she said something very crucial, which is why I put it in here. You are your own advocate. You are always your own advocate. And if you need help in that, then there's ways to get that, to develop that advocacy. But you have to start with the acceptance that it's on you. And that's sort of the beauty thing, is you get to determine what it is. So let's start with, in terms of booking, what is your goal? What is your goal to building a tour? What is your goal to performing your music? Building awareness, your audience development. Are you trying to develop a new audience? Are you trying to extend your audience? Or are you trying to just reach the audience that you have? Is it about access to collaborations? By that, I mean working with musicians or other artists or other people that you can collaborate with to that is going to extend your vision or realize your vision. For instance, say you love three-dimensional art and you have this idea about creating music that can be presented in a setting where there's already some existing three-dimensional art and how it relates to that. Or maybe you love food and you want to create an experience for your audience where it's you and a chef and they're cooking to your food and there's some relationship there. So think about that, access to collaborations. Maybe it's about future bookings. So, which is something I always encourage, it's not just important to get the gig, it's important to be invited back. So think about that as well. Maybe it's something that allows you to workshop material. So in other words, you are developing a project and you might want to find gigs that allow you to continue that development, whether that's through a residency, whether through a workshop, whether through a performance. But the reason why you do that performance is because of the audience that you're being exposed to. Obviously, it's to promote your music, but it's good to know that. And sometimes it's to sell merchandise. You have a new album out. You have something that you want to share that helps you in your income stream. Again, commerce is our friend. So let's talk about, are you ready to book your band? Before we even start, you have to be very clear about what makes your band, your sound, your artistic expression unique. What is that? That's called branding. How do you present yourself? And that has to do with what does an audience see visually, and be aware of what that is. Look, I work with an artist who sings with their eyes closed the entire time. So it's not necessarily about being able to jump up and down on stage, being able to have some kind of movement on stage, although sometimes it is. But it's being aware of who you are as a vehicle for what is inside of you. How do you present yourself? That's just on stage. The other question to ask yourself, and this is a continuing question, is how do you present yourself to others? How do you present yourself to your fellow musicians? How do you present yourself to potential venues, presenters? Do you speak when you first enter a venue? Who do you speak to? Are you just waiting around for the people who signed the contract? Or are you speaking to the crew? Are you speaking to the people who the ushers? Are you speaking to the people at the box office? How do you present yourself? How do you want people to remember you? Do you want them to remember you? So understanding your brand, being able to articulate it to others. That's a whole nother session. We're not going to get into it, but know what your brand is, know what sets you apart, and know how do you communicate that? Visually, verbally, musically, artistically. So my dad taught me many things, and one of the things he taught me was about the 4 Ps: planning, preparation, persistence, and patience. And yes, they are in order. I put these up here because I'm always talking about them as sort of a guide. And I think it's something that helps us, particularly in the world of arts, because it pays attention to the order of what we have to do. Planning, something that a lot of folks don't like to pay too much time doing, and preparation. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. So planning. Again, when we're talking about booking, think about what is your timeline? Are we talking about booking something that's a year from now, which is most performing arts centers? Maybe it's in a shorter period, 6 months from now. Clubs. Maybe it's shorter than that, 3 months from now. That might be educational outlets, might be workshops. Maybe 3 to 5 years, something that you're developing. Not ready yet, but you know that in 3 to 5 years, you're going to have this ready. And maybe it's a longer project, 10 years. And don't be surprised. Maybe the pandemic sort of helped us with that kind of concept, that things take much longer than, and we're fine with things taking longer now that we've gone through the pandemic, because it requires that kind of perusing and development. Part of planning: how can someone find out about you? Where can someone hear your music? Is it through the internet? Is it through radio? Is it through, outreach? What is it? Direct outreach? Is it through press? How can someone hear your music? Coming back to branding, knowing your brand. What genre of music? What style of music? What is your message? What is your focus? And we can think now, because music has become, especially jazz, become so tangential in a lot of ways. Understanding how people are receiving your music and how you are intending your music to be shared. Understanding what those possibilities are, without deceiving yourself, by the way. Just because you like hip hop doesn't mean that you're a hip hop artist. Just because you have some beats in your music doesn't mean it's going to appeal to somebody who books hip hop artists. So you got to be honest about it as well, authentic about it as well. Understanding your audience. Some of us, and we're at different stages with audience development, right? Some of us are just starting out. So you may have an audience that is really needing to be grown. But know that your audience that exists as now. A lot is talked about in terms of social media. Look at how many followers you have and try to increase it. Follow people whose music is similar to yours so that you can start to affect the algorithms. If you are performing now, get a good grip on who comes to your shows, and especially those repeat attendees. You should know who they are. How do you reach out to them? Are you able to provide them with something that they then know how to reach out to you? How to find out when you're performing? Do you have a barcode that you can share with people, a QR code, so that they can keep track of your performances? It relates, goes back to your website or your web page or your social media posts. Provide people with an access to your work. And then we have to be clear about identifying target audiences that you may not have right now, but that's where that's where your path is trying to lead. Okay, so that's part of planning. Let's get into the preparation part. This is the heavy workload part. And I asked this question, what's in your toolkit? This is what you need in order to be your own booking agent. All of these things. You have some of them, hopefully you have all of them. If not, you know what you have to create. And I'm just going to go through these things. We can come back to them in the question area. But a pitch letter, something that tells somebody who you are, what you're doing, what is your performance history, what is your list of venues that you've already performed at? What is your fee? What are your fees that you have already achieved? You need to have a projected budget. What does it cost you in order to put and in a venue? Here's where I have to be real clear, because that's what's going to help guide your decisions later on. Know what it costs you, how much you're going to pay what you would like to pay your side musicians. If you have to rehearse, how much does it cost you to pay for rehearsal? Does it cost you anything? Maybe not. What does it cost for you to get to a gig? So if it's a drivable gig, what are the costs of that? Tolls, parking, gas. If it's something that you have to take a train to or fly to or rent a car or ride a bus, know what those costs, those actual line item costs are for your budget. If you're going to do any kind of advertising on social media, if you're going to do a Facebook boost, know what that costs you. Put that in your budget. What does it cost you to do a gig? Know what your formats are. A lot of times we can go out as a duo, know what that is. Sometimes you can go out as a trio. If you have a sextet or a septet, know what formats you can offer to a presenter, and understand that you may have to be adaptable. Everyone can afford to bring in a quintet. But if your music is only written in a format for a quintet, then that tells you you're going to sort of focus your pitches to those type of venues that can do it, or those, and you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. I work with a band that ideally likes to work literally with 9 people. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Can you do it as a trio? And they had to go back. At first, they're like, oh, no. It's like, well, all right, that's fine. Not a problem. And then as offers weren't coming in for that 9, 9ette, it was like, yeah, I think we can do it as a trio. Great. I said, I don't want you to, I want you to be happy with your music. So we're not going to compromise on the music. I need you to understand and tell me, is it something that you can do and be happy about with the smaller group? So I put that same question to you guys. Know the different formats that you can offer to a presenter that you're going to be happy with. And always have your list of musicians. It's the most annoying thing when you finally get a gig and then it's like, okay, who's available? And then you have to start calling around. Know for each instrument that you have to that you want to bring, have 2 or 3 people deep, so that when you get the gig, or when somebody says, who's in the band, you're able to answer that. Yes, you need an EPK. What's in it? A bio, a photo, a video. And I do mean a video clip. We don't need a full performance. If someone asks you for a full performance, then yes, you can have that in your back pocket. But in terms of an EPK, people's attention spans are very short, as we know. So keep it to a 30-second or shorter video. You can have a couple clips. You can have, 2, 10, or 15-second clips. That's fine. Just give people an idea of what that format looks like and sounds like. So if you have a trio and a quintet, have a couple. You can have, two video clips, one of the trio, one of the quintet. Make sure you have a clear way for people to access you. Having a website, I don't care what anybody tells you, presenters always look at websites. They don't spend a lot of time on them, but you have to have a website. It can be a web page, but it has to be something that is visual, as easily accessible within a 24-hour clock, and impressionable. So in other words, it's easy to read. It's clear. It so it hits you in the face on that homepage, and it tells me how to get a hold of you, whether it's email, phone number, any of that stuff. It tells me I can hear your music. I can have access to it. This is what you look like. Yes, people do make decisions based on how you look. And, gives me just some real quick information and places that you have already performed. So contact. Social media. Presenters look at your social media. They will go online, see how many followers you have on Insta, on Facebook. Those are the two main ones. Yes, they go to YouTube channels. They love YouTube channels. And they don't generally look at TikTok, but if you have TikTok, make it work for you. They want to know, how do you engage? Excuse me, please. So work on those engagement algorithms. Look at social media, particularly as you're now in the booking agent hat, wearing your booking agent hat, in terms of geo-marketing. So when you get a gig, you want to be able to geo-market, advertise to those areas where there are, where you're having the gig, or even those target markets where you want to get the gig. You want to understand geo-marketing and invest your time and some money in it. It's not expensive. I talked earlier about a timeline. Know what your timeline is. At what point do you start wanting to book for this project? If you have an album coming out, or a single coming out, or some other kind of important event, you have to know what your timeline is. It can be a year, it can be 6 months, but understand what that is. You need a booking calendar that lists what time, and I'll get into that because it's actually related to a booking sheet, but the calendar is literally a month-by-month calendar that you can then also put on their submission deadlines for festivals, for instance, festivals that occur every year. They usually start booking after the previous festival has been completed, like 1 or 2 months after that. You want to know what those submission deadlines are and put that on a calendar so that you don't have to keep it all in your head. A booking sheet. I'll give you an example one, but basically what it does is it allows you to track when you pitch someone, what your follow-up calls and emails, when they were made, what their responses were, and if there was a decision. This is really important because from year to year, we'll go back to some of the same people who've already booked us, who haven't booked us, but we know what our history has been. And then you can refer to that. You need to have a contract and a writer already in your toolkit. A tech writer, which stipulates what you need the presenter to provide in terms of instrumentation, sound, setup, your stage plot, excuse me. It should be done according to your format. So if you're presenting a trio, then you have a writer for the trio. If you're presenting a quintet, you have a writer for the quintet. And it details what all the instrumentation is, again, what your sound is, what you need in terms of monitors, mics, all of that equipment. It also details your hospitality writer, so what you need in the green room, what else is important if you have any allergies or any of you musicians have allergies. Again, that's another workshop, but know that you need a writer and you need a contract. A contract doesn't have to be extensive. What it has to do is it needs to protect you. It's not a contract that is sent by the presenter protects the presenter. Your own contract protects you. Have one. You can go to the musicians union and get a basic one. You can go online, get some basic ones, but have your own. Let's see, did I finish that? Updated website. That sort of goes without saying, but make sure it's up to date. So how do we start this process? With research. Again, this is the heavy lifting part, you guys. Finding the venues. Starting again. Some of this stuff is going to be repetitive, but it's important. Knowing your genre. And within jazz, there's a lot, right? So take a clear look at what your project is presenting. And it may be that this project is more of like a singer-songwriter project as opposed to another one, which was just pure instrumentation. It may be that you started off doing real post-bop, trad kind of stuff, and now you've segued into something else that is more tangential to another genre of music, whether it's, soul or hip hop or gospel or something else. But know what your genre is. And then in finding the right venues, look for artists who are similar to you and where they perform. One of the biggest complaints I get, and I hear this a lot from my platform as president of a performing arts organization. What I get is that presenters get so annoyed by musicians, or by artists rather, I should say, who approach them and have no clue about their venue. They haven't taken the time to go onto the website of that venue and find out, who do they present normally? Do they even present jazz? Do they have a jazz series? Have they ever presented jazz musicians? And if so, what style of jazz musicians, what size in terms of kind of audiences? Know the size of the venue. If it's a 4,000 seater and you can't fill 4,000 seats because you never have, let's not start there. Let's start with a venue where you've done well. Say it's a 150 seater. And maybe you've only sold 100 seats, but 150 seater is within reach. So go on the websites, understand the venues. I can't tell you enough, no matter what city you're in, no matter why you were there, go to the local clubs. Introduce yourself. You're not asking for a gig. All you're doing is establishing the beginning of a relationship. People love to meet artists, especially when they're not asking for something. Just like to hear about you, because why? They're in the arts. They want to know who's participating. So visit the clubs, ask for the manager, whether it's the evening manager, whether it's the manager of whether it's the booking person. Meet the manager, meet the person who's at the door. Get to know that person. When I first moved to New York from LA, this is 20-some years ago, it was easy for me to start working and booking my musicians because I've been coming to New York for, I don't know, say 10 years. But every time I came to New York, I went to the clubs. I went to the Vanguard. I went to what was before smoke was smoke. I went to all the clubs and I just introduced myself. And that's all I did. I paid the fee to get in. I let them become familiar with my face and what I do, so that we had some relationship before I started asking them to, before I started pitching my clients. So if you are a side musician, don't sleep on the opportunity that is being provided to you. Introduce yourself to the presenter and do it with respect to the person who got you there. So you're not crowding in on the leader, but you're saying, "Hi, I am part of this project. I just want to meet you. It's such a pleasure to play in your venue." Introduce yourself during sound check. They're usually there. Introduce yourself afterwards. If there's a Q&A or a meet and greet after the show or before the show, and if it's just for the leader, put your butt in the audience. Go there. Number one, you're supporting your leader. Number two, you're showing interest to a lot of people who you do not know are watching. And it gives you an opportunity to make another connection. So check out the new clubs. Definitely look at universities, because right now, most of what is being booked in jazz are at the college level. Yes, you have clubs, since the pandemic, so many clubs have closed down. So it's been colleges and universities. So especially look at those that have jazz programs. That's over 200 colleges and universities in the US alone. Use the internet. I mean, maybe that sounds simple, but there's a way to use your search engine to look for networking groups, entertainment networking groups. You can just use that. What does that bring up? It gives you places for you to contact that are not necessarily traditional performance places. For instance, let's see, I may put this, hold on. Okay, so down here, oops, sorry. Go back. Okay. Networking groups, MPI, Meeting Professionals International, National Association for Catering Events, International Live Events Association. Those are all like off-docket kinds of opportunities. Those are not venues for performance, but they are opportunities to performance, because what do? They book conventions. Once you get onto that circuit, which can be lucrative and can certainly live adjacent to your performances in at the more traditional venues, whether they're festivals or clubs or performing arts centers, you have now created another income stream for yourself, another access point to develop your network. And they, like I say, they rarely conflict, because these are private events. These are corporate events. These are conventions. It's a way for you to expand your network. Let me just go back a bit. So look for places where you can initiate a residency. That doesn't have to be an educational institution. That can be a community group. That can be a boys and girls club. That can be any kind of entity where you want to, going back to what Susan said, advocate for yourself, and something else, which is about expanding your village. Obviously, look at festivals, and then look at showcases. These are opportunities for you to present your vision, your band, your project to people who are literally caught in a room. Can't go anywhere else. They're going to hear what you can present. Sometimes those showcase opportunities, for instance, if it's at APAP or CMA or any of the other conferences, you might have 15, 20 minutes to do it. So work on that, number one. But Jen, look at where you have a little bit longer time to showcase your work, but the idea is that you are playing to a captivated audience who has potential to, number one, either book your band or talk about your band to somebody else who could book your band. Because what are we doing again? You're developing your network. And your network isn't just the people who are right in front of you, but the people who they talk to. That whole Brady Bunch idea. So, resources that you need. A map. Sounds simple. Know what is in the center of the country, those states that are in the center of the country. Why? Because if you are in jazz, that's where most of the opportunities lay, in the center of the country. Yes, the coast is great. The coasts are fabulous, but number one, they're harder to get to if you're on one side or the other, but also there are fewer opportunities there. So understand how this country is laid out, the same in terms of the world. So when you're looking internationally, same kind of thing. Also, it allows you to route. You need to understand how to get from point A to point B. And if you're in Indianapolis and you have a gig in Indianapolis, how are you going to get the next gig? Are you going to Denver? Probably not. But maybe you get a gig in Denver. So what's in between? How do you route that to make it doable? So that's why it's important to have a map. Once you get one gig, and we'll get into this a little bit later, then you start to see what's around that geographic area. Have a list of venues and people who book. You can develop that list. Ask other musicians where they've played. Go online. Google all this stuff. Google is your friend. Start with regions and then expand from there. Looking at booking conferences, I just mentioned that. Tour sports, they are always hiring bands. Networking groups, as I mentioned earlier, bands in town, you can see where people play. You're gathering your resources, you're developing your own network, you're developing your own database. This is how you can start to do that. Look at social media groups. If you guys, I know a lot of people, especially musicians, hate to be on social media. And I'm with you. I don't like being on it either. But these are sometimes the necessary evils. If you can't be on it, find somebody who can be on it in your stead so that you can join the social media groups. There's groups of the trumpet players, and there's groups of harpists, and there's groups of vocalists. Join those groups. See where people are playing. Gail Boyd does alternative venues for jazz. She has a website on Facebook. She does what do you call it? Videos on it. Look at those places. Leadership platforms. I'm on a bunch of boards for good reason, because it's part of my giving back. But look in your own area. How can you? Susan and I were talking earlier too about it takes a village, and look at your own small village. Where can you be a leader within that, or how can you access that? Civic and local organizations, I mentioned Boys and Girls Club, there's school events, there's all sorts of organizations you can be involved in. I know your time is limited, but look at something that makes sense to you that you are already interested in. So it's a natural progression. Educational programs, nonprofits, event planners, those are big. Those are big. Don't think of it as just weddings. Number one, I have a friend who is an amazing, very accomplished vocalist. And he does weddings. The last two weddings he told me about doing, one was in Italy on the Amalfi Coast, and another one was in Mexico. And it's like, Oh, wow. That's fantastic. It was a wonderful, and it was just very high class, very, very fitting with his brand. So, and they can be fun and you get good food usually. But event planners, they're the ones who are always looking for entertainers. And how do you find out about the event planners? You Google it. There are many associations in each city of event planners. And I think there's actually a national one too. Um, all right, know what your targets are. Clubs, theaters, corporate events, educational programs, alternative venues. Look at places of worship. Look at parks, community centers, hospitals, rehab facilities. I have a friend, a well-known musician, who a few years ago said, I am really interested in working with hospitals. The work I want to do has to do with rehabilitative. I'm not even saying that word. Rehab work, shorten it. And so she started to sort of diverge her interests to opportunities where she could work directly with caregiving and hospital opportunities, nursing homes. Think of your own personal interests and where does that lead you? And think about how do you want to share your gift? And if it could be within a synagogue, it could be within a temple, it could be with well-being. Look at those as opportunities. I mentioned earlier about researching the venue. Create a venue booking report that tells you what the style of music is, what the audience capacity is, what their pay range is. Sometimes they only deal with door gigs. Doesn't mean you should turn that down because it might be something that would pay you more than if they offered you a guarantee. Know who does the booking. You can call up and find out. Sometimes it'll say it on the website where to submit packages. And get a good understanding of a description for the venue. Do they have a young artist series? Do they have a jazz series? Do they offer an educational series or a community community access point? A lot of times, the performing arts centers will almost require you to do not just a musical program, but an educational program to fulfill their own charter about offering community programming. And understand what the timeline is. Oops, I don't think, oh, come on. I don't think I can make that bigger, but this is sort of what a booking report looks like. It sort of lists all of that stuff that I don't know how to make this bigger. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't do it. I will send it to CMA and they can get it to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Karen. We
Yeah.
do have 10 minutes left, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to leave room for questions.
Um, yeah. Okay. I'm just going through and seeing what else I have. Let's do questions because probably this other information will come up in the questions.
Sounds great. And we are happy to send these slides out if you're willing
I,
to
I
provide
will
them.
send you, I'll send you some of the slides. I can't send you all of
Sounds
them, but I'll
great.
send you some of them.
That sounds great. So yeah, let's open it up. Who has a question? Go for it, Destiny.
Destiny. Hey,
Thank you. This is more than helpful, very useful. I feel like probably many of us are applying some of those ideas that you gave us,
mhm.
and you just expanded it, at least for me. I think maybe for the rest of us as well. I had a question in regards to sending out our own contract, when at least for me, many times the venue is sending me a contract, and then there's the question of I'm reviewing the contract. I'm not quite like Michael Jackson. I don't know if you heard this story about Michael Jackson where folks were scared when he would review the contract because he was no nonsense. But in the same breath, though, with some of the knowledge I have, I've either had to question or chosen to question the venue about things that were in the contract, or at least see if we could come to a happy medium in regards to it. Sometimes they have a board that maybe the board has produced a contract and they enjoy the arts and they're supportive of the arts, but they haven't been artists. And some of the things I'll cite this. I received a contract once from an entity, I won't name them, that we were in negotiation not only for me and my trio to perform, but they also wanted us to. They were building in the educational process. They had built into the contract that if we didn't show up, that we would be charged $500. But that didn't apply to them if they canceled the date. And so I promise you, I was uncomfortable with that. And the person who came to me is a very sweet person and had just been put in the position, also an artist. However, she said she was back and forth with them, and it was an attorney that they had that was, I don't know if it didn't seem like the person was an entertainment attorney. Maybe they had some bad blood with an artist, and we came to a standstill why we didn't perform there, because for me I questioned it, and they seemed to be, why are you questioning?
Destiny, tell me, in the interest of time, tell me what your question is.
My question is that do we always, I apologize for that, are we sending our contract, or are we accepting their contract?
Okay. All right. So you never accept the contract. What you can do, and you have every right to do, is whenever someone else sends you a contract, you have the right to redline that. So you insert what you need in there. You can cross out what you don't like about it. That happens all the time, especially with colleges and universities. I cannot use my own contract with colleges and universities because they're usually public universities. So we have to use their contract. But I always redline. I mean, before I got on this call, I was going through stuff. You have to know what is important to you and what what is acceptable. But you can redline any contract.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Jody.
Karen,
Hi.
thanks
Good
for
to see you.
sharing all your expertise. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question about negotiation. If they come with a guarantee, they say, I can only offer you this guarantee, and the guarantees say $500 less than you need to get your band there. What can I do? Like,
Again, negotiate. You said the word negotiation. You always have the right to negotiate. That just happened with a client day before yesterday. They said, all right, this is what it is. It's an all-in offer. You pay for airfare, hotel, everything. Here's what we have. And I wrote, and I always do my research. Whenever I get an offer, I immediately go and say, all right, what's it going to cost me to get my client there? What's it going to cost me to pay for the musicians? I do my little budget. It's not exact, but it gives me an idea. Am I in the ballpark? Are they in the ballpark? So I did. And it's like, oh, and this is for something that literally is in March. So what's that, 6 months from now? So and you can still sort of get a guesstimate. But what I did is wrote them back and said, look, at today's rate, this is what the transportation costs are. This is what the hotel costs are. We are short in your offer. I need X amount more in order to make this work. Let's discuss.
You're giving them concrete expenses.
Always. Because first of all, I always think that there's room for negotiation. There's room for, if you want that person there, you're going to find a way to get them there. But having said that, you have to be willing to say no. So my feeling is, look, if they can't, that's okay. now's not the time. Let's come back and talk in 6 months when you do have the budget. This is what we need.
Mhm.
So it's all in how you deliver that information too. But definitely do it. Don't pay to play.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Here, and there are a couple here in the chat.
Yeah. Red line means crossing stuff out. Yes, yes, about universities. They use online systems which don't allow for that. Well, that did happen. All this stuff has happened, you guys. It's all how you deal with it. Then I contacted the buyer and said, "Hey, you need to send me something that's a PDF that I can redline because I know of course we can't accept your contract as is." Remember that the people who write the contracts are not the people who book the gig. Two different sets of offices and two very different people with different goals, different mindsets. So you go back to the person who booked it and like, hey, I got the contract. I can't work with it because it doesn't allow me to make changes on it that are going to be important for you to deal with for this artist so that the artist can be happy when they get there. That's sort of the message.
I have a
So go
question.
back. And then for pitching venues for booking future performances, any guidance on how effective email is versus making calls to venues? Excellent question. What should be the frequency? Okay. I generally reach out with an email first, followed by phone calls. There is nothing to replace phone calls. You can call them several times because it's going to take several times to get a response. It's going to take several times to get an email reply, unless you already have an established relationship with that person, and sometimes not even then. I mean, I've been literally hounding this person who already booked my client about bringing them back in, and it has been since August, and this is now November. And this is a person I've known for a long time, and they have not responded to me. So my response then was to go above their heads. It's like, oh, you know what? I've given you all this opportunity. I've said, hey, have you not got my email? Maybe I know you're really busy. Do I have the right address? I texted them. I called them. So I gave them all the opportunity. Now you're still refusing to respond to me, which I think is pretty unprofessional. But I don't take it personally. That's a reflection on them. So now I'm going to go to somebody else in your organization and say, hey, I've reached out to this person, they haven't responded. Is everything okay? And again, give them an opportunity to then address it. In this instance, I reached out to somebody above them and they're like, oh, okay, I know they're really busy. I said, yeah, I know too, but now it's been 4 months. Okay, I'm gonna deal with this. All right, cool. Didn't hear back from that person. So then I reached out to the other person who was above him. I'm like, hey, really like to, in respect of our relationship, just give me an answer. There is something that a friend of mine says, another manager, a quick no is as good as a fast yes. No, I said that wrong. Yeah, a quick no is as good as a slow yes. Let's not
Also,
waste.
Karen, can I
Yeah.
just say one of my favorite phrases is you never want a dirty no or a dirty yes. You want a clean no and a clean yes because you'll resent it. It won't be a good experience for anyone on both ends. So yeah, which is a hard thing to stick by, right?
Yeah, but it's it's a small word travels fast. Always be as respectful as you want someone to treat you. I don't care if they're, don't show it back to you. Maintain your own level of integrity. When you budget in order to make a proposal, do you allow some contingency expense? Yes, there's always that miscellaneous. It would be lovely if it was 10%. Maybe it's sometimes $100. But yes, I do pad a budget because sometimes there are problems. Is there such a thing as no means no? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure what that question means. So
I
whoever
think
said that.
if it's final, don't call us, we'll call you.
Oh, you mean when someone else tells you a no?
No.
If a venue tells me no, then I accept that. And then I say, okay, great. And then I reach back out, like in 6 months' time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, never take no. No, you have to be respectful. If someone says, look, a venue knows their venue, they know their audience. If they say you're not appropriate at this time, then believe them. Because you trying to convince them is only going to make them never want to talk to you. And it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you
Did we
recommend,
did we
can
get to all the questions in the chat? I just want to
yeah,
make sure I see.
can you recommend performance insurance to cover long periods versus a one-day purchase of performance? You can buy a 1 year insurance clause for like 450, I think 500, versus a one day event for like 150 to 250. Yes, you can definitely buy the 1 year clause if you can afford to do it.
There was something with Scott's question that he was saying, with universities, it's electronic and there's no way to negotiate through the electronic system. So I was kind of curious about that. I haven't heard that before.
Okay. hmm that's when you go back to the person who booked the gig and you tell them that you need a contract that is, while you will ultimately sign the electronic contract, for the negotiations you need a contract that you can redline, and then they can take those red lines, put it into the electronic contract that you will then sign. So you're just interrupting the process to accommodate what you need.
Absolutely. Scott, I'm curious about your experiences, but we can always chat offline. Yeah, I know we're at time, but yeah, any final things that you want to say, Karen, or is there a burning question that somebody wants answered right now? I
Let's
think
go
we're
with the
all
burning
all
question
set.
first.
Yeah. Karen, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Your expertise is just incredible. Thank you so much, really.
I have a burning statement, two
Great.
different statements. You are your own advocate, but it does take a village. And it's not just being a part of that village, it's about making that village.
Mm, thank you
Yeah.
for that. That's like
That's
a
a
closing
part of
benefit.
CMA's work, right, Susan?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Karen, thank you so much.
Ah, you're welcome. My
Yeah.
pleasure.
Mentioned
Thank you,
early
guys.
on, you have been a long time CMA friend.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
may I say, can this be continued at another time?
sure, absolutely. I'm always
Um,
available for you, Susan.
yeah.
Lovely.
Just one
Always.
last announcement for everybody here. We have some upcoming events that we'd love to see you. Pretty much every musician I know is an educator in some way, and we have an education roundtable happening in a few weeks. Would really love to see you there. Additionally, the first week of December, we have a grant overview because there are new grant opportunities, and I think it's just helpful to get that overview from our wonderful grants team. And yeah, so we have some really exciting things coming up, an Advocacy 101, advocacy in an election year. So since that's coming up soon, with our big elections, that is one that we're really looking forward to. That'll be the week of December 8th. So lots to look forward to. Really hope to see you there. And when we follow up, I will give all of the event information as well. So thank you again. And for those who paid to come to today's webinar, happy to be in touch and talk about applying that as a credit towards your membership. So thank you so much for being here. And Karen, big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
having me,
everybody.
guys. Pass it on.
Karen.